Who do you look at? I went out for coffee this morning. It was still dark. It was about 6:30. And there was a man walking down the street in my direction. I looked away. We passed each other. The sidewalk isn't all that wide. I didn't really look at him, and I didn't let him see me looking at him. And that got me started thinking about the whole idea of looking at people on the sidewalk, and how far back can I go in my history of experience of looking or not looking at people. Men in particular. I never dared look at a man. This is kind of a digression between, I find the feminism, masculine, and all this discussion kind of pathetic. I mean, conclusions. I think the most valuable thing is experience. I don't see the necessity of conclusions and categorization. Anyway, so I'm not going to do any of that. If you see anything in here like that, fine. You can do whatever you want with it. That's not my point. I don't think it's about that. So when did I learn not to look at people, men in particular? Probably as I entered puberty. If a budding young girl looked at a man, it was assumed she was on the make. You were asking for trouble. So I never looked at a man on the sidewalk, even into my 20s and 30s. It was just always seemed to be like you were asking for trouble. I think, although I wasn't looking at them, I think that they were looking at me. I mean, I'd get whistles and things like that. Truck drivers, construction workers, looking at me and verbalizing in some way. I was always just afraid to look at them. So this morning it was almost like some of that was still there somehow. This guy could be drunk. I mean, it was a weird time of day. And 90% of me wanted to say good morning. One time that this really changed was in the 60s here in San Francisco. Then everybody looked at everybody. There was no danger. There was no potential imagined danger. You looked at everybody, and you really looked. It was an incredible time, and a loss. When that left, we don't have that now. People are too afraid to look at each other. If they do look, well, I'm always looking in people's eyes. Now, of course, I don't have anything to fear, so I can look at everybody. They're not going to come after me. So, but nobody's looking back. Most of the time, I'm looking. Now, if they're looking back, then what? They only look a second. And can you say, good morning? Or smile? Not really. Not like it was. It's almost an aggressive act. And they close down. They recoil from that quick look away and almost a subtle change in the body direction. This isn't true in other parts of the world. This is not true in Asia. Although there is something still about when the eyes are engaged, but you have to be very careful what you do after that because it can be considered an aggressive act. You're controlling the situation. If you smile, maybe they don't want to smile. Maybe they'll respond with a frown. This can happen anywhere in the world, I think. It's fear, mostly, I think, of not. You have invaded that person's space. Anyway, to make a long story short, I found a way. I discovered it in India. So if I'm walking down the street, somebody's walking towards me, I would just go like that. If something was going on over here, like that seemed noteworthy, I might look at the person and go, a very slight expression, but it was mainly an eyebrow thing. That never bothers anybody. They don't have to respond, but they almost always do. But the expression coming from you is so gentle and brief, and it's like you look at them and then you sort of look away. Most people really like that. And when I discovered that little trick in India, it was working really great for me. And the first time that I returned home from an Indian trip, having done that, then I was delighted because now I knew a way that I could greet a person in such a low-key way that it wouldn't be considered something that they had to respond to or anything. It's almost like we're having an inside thing, we're sharing the same experience. There's all kinds of ways to interpret this look. So, so I got home all ready to try it, and I went walking, and I couldn't do it. Nobody was looking. People aren't looking. I was so deprived. I felt so deprived because I couldn't do my social contact trick. And because I do think that contact is important. And if the other person won't look at you, how are you going to do it? I found a way. Unfortunately, it involved a car, being in a car, driving a car. But if I'm driving a car and then I extend a courtesy to someone, let a pedestrian cross in front of me, let a car make a turn or something, they'll look in the windshield. They can't believe this has happened, and they'll look in the windshield, and then I can do my thing, and we have made contact.